So I know My Hero 131 is pretty heavy. It literally ends with our boy Deku going solo. He wants to be Batman, beating up the vigilantes at night. We have Endeavor and the crew giving a pretty heart-tugging press conference where things are rather emotional. But I have to admit, the most interesting point of this whole episode has to be how on point my boy Best Jeanist's neck game truly is. We know he has that long neck, I mean, just look at his general outfits, but there's something about seeing him in a normal suit, the fact that he gets that extra long collar, and it's so ridiculous, but the fact that he rocks it so hard, how do you not consider him best boy? I mean, Best Jeanist, he's next level in terms of that fashion trend, but man, this was a great episode. So, one for all, Deku's ability, right? I mean, there's a lot of heavy information. It's very possible Deku could be the last wielder forever with this ability. While it's not impossible if someone was quirkless and it matched up, I mean, it very well could be that this ability, it lives and dies with our boy, and I mean, not to put too much pressure on Deku, but there's a lot of pressure on Deku. Now, I do have a full live reaction to today's episode available on my Patreon, so if you want to see that, head on over and consider supporting, because yeah, this episode definitely took me by surprise. It was just so perfectly balanced in terms of giving so much time and attention to a conversation that needed to happen, seeing all the different wielders throughout the entire years of this ability seemingly existing, seeing them all finally get to come face to face and just talk. Yeah, there's some funny moments, there's some more silly moments, but all things considered, it's heavy, it's very heavy, and the fact that the entire conversation boils down to Deku, can you kill Shiggy? And I think it's so interesting because I remember initially when Deku said, when I looked at his face, it looked like he was screaming for help, and from our perspective, what we saw is basically what we got exactly here in the flashback. Someone who has hate in his eyes, who just feels like he's full of resentment. It's not that he wanted help from basically being tortured by this man, but more so he wanted to be in full control so he could do the chaos. But it's interesting to actually see it from Deku's perspective, where you see the child within him, that one sliver of hope of back in the day, there was an innocent kid, and honestly, man, like, a few wrong moves, a few wrong people, and who knows what Deku could have ended up like, right? You know, not everyone ends up having an All Might mentor you. And I think it's interesting because rather than Deku coming out and saying, I won't kill Shiggy, or I won't hurt Shiggy, all he's saying is like, I'm being like All Might. I'm saying, I can't just start with that thought process. I don't know what the future holds. I know there's been times where I had to beat the living crap out of people, but here's the thing, if I can save someone, I would rather that be my drive than simply saying I need to kill. I mean, hell, we're even looking at someone like Hawks as an example. He absolutely had to kill twice in that moment. Twice escaping, the damage would have been at least 2 times larger. Not to say Hawks doesn't feel bad about it, but obviously in that press conference, we're seeing even that's starting to bite him in the butt. So the fact that you still have that one sliver of hope being like, I want to at the very least try, push comes to shove, that's when we think about the harder decisions. And I think it's interesting. Obviously it won't please everyone, but for myself, I really liked what they did with that conversation. And to see a bunch of them just honestly break down, being like, we're putting our hope and our stress all on this young boy, and this young boy feels like he has a better head on his shoulders than all of us combined. I think just seeing the different combinations, I mean, at one point there's this moment where essentially the two wielders, one of which has Spider-Man's whips or webs, and the other has the Spidey sense, and they're kind of brawling Looney Tunes style, and it's just kind of amusing being like, these two combined is literally Spider-Man. And just seeing Deku just kind of like in the background just being like, what's going on? But I also like the fact that rather than it just simply being this conversation, which, you know, he's knocked out, he's in a full body cast here, and he's having a chit chat with all the previous wielders who are laying down some pretty heavy information, right? That information really was a shock to me because I like the way they explained it with essentially like glasses overflowing and breaking. So the fact that basically the bodies who already have some form of quirk, they eventually like, they just shatter. I mean, the fact that you die of old age, but he looks like he lived till he was, 40? The fact that it just, this ability is too extreme, and the more powers that get layered into it, it becomes harder and harder to harness. And the fact that, as far as they can see, maybe if there's the right person out there who's completely quirkless and it matches, there could be another person who could wield it after Deku, but as far as they know, this ability lives and dies with him, so whatever happens is going to happen. And I mean, the fact that you have that information on top of literally the League of Villains targeting you specifically for that ability, I mean, it's not good. It's very, very stressful. So I think that's why, combining what Deku said about Shiggy and his idea of, I would rather my goal be to try to save rather than just simply being someone who's just straight up saying they need to die, I think that's why that entire scene works so well. And the fact that instead of just leaving it like that, they balance the Endeavor stuff. They balance even the letter content. I thought was nice to see the general students basically all break down in different ways when reading that, like, hey, I got my ability from All Might, the League of Villains is targeting me, I need to go solo, as like, it's just such a badass moment where he just gears up, he's like, ooh, there's a big villain, I'm gonna go be Batman. I'm like, that is just so cool. It really feels like in a lot of ways this could have been the last episode of a season for me. Maybe you would need to be restructured a little bit differently, like maybe just a little more closure on certain ends, but in a lot of ways this could have been like an episode 24 and episode 25 for me. The fact that we still have content left for this season, I mean, this season just isn't missing. Now, Endeavor's press conference, I mean, I've been talking about it, I've been worried about it, and it basically went as poorly as I was expecting. Not only did you have to admit all the things that were said was true, but to see the different reactions from people being like, yep, Endeavor's definitely done here. You have this woman where I understand the frustrations completely. Hey, this giant bastard crushed not only my home, which hurt my mother, but also it hurt so many people. Like, I understand you're not the reason it happened, but like, how can you guys just stand up there looking like you don't care? And it's very interesting to see the different responses from Endeavor being like, would it be better if I was breaking down? Because here's the thing. The Hero Society is on such, it's almost like walking the plank right now. One wrong step and they're swimming with the fishes. So the fact of the matter is, the top 3 heroes, they need to seem composed, because if they show any sign of weakness, it's absolutely game over. And to see people deal with it differently, whether it's, oh, you said Best Jeanist is dead, why is he here? Why did you kill a villain? Why did you have an abusive family situation? Like, it's all pretty nasty stuff. And I mean, the fact that Endeavor just lights up saying, listen, we're in a bad situation. Hate me. Let all the other hero stuff slide. Because listen, you need a symbol of hope that All Might was. I'm your symbol of hate. And I'm like, that is just so, that's the only thing he could probably do, but I feel bad for the guy because, I mean, literally, like, without Endeavor, it's guaranteed game over. I mean, this season has just been a emotional roller coaster with some incredible action, some incredible directing, but it just feels like because we get all this content all in one season without that break, it hits so much harder, I find. Like, I'm still able to have fun, joke about Best Jeanist, there's some goofy moments and shenanigans that still pop up, but at the end of the day, this is a heavy, emotionally driven season and is absolutely doing everything I think I need to see anyway. And I know just based on the enthusiasm of this season compared to the past couple of seasons, I'm seeing a lot more people say that with me, and it's great to see. But thoughts and feelings yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell so you can get as many notifications to the channel as possible, and as I mentioned, I do have a full live reaction available on my Patreon. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.